The coast was a mosaic of blue and gold, with the setting sun painting the sky with strokes of orange and pink. There, by the sea, was Scarlett and Benjamin's charming inn. For 12 long years, they had built that place together, brick by brick, smile by smile. Scarlett vividly remembered the first time she saw Benjamin. His bright eyes and charming smile that promised adventures and eternal love. At that time, he was her everything. Her partner, her lover, her confidant. The inn was a reflection of their love and hard work. Each room was carefully decorated, each detail thought out to provide guests with an unforgettable stay. Laughter and whispers of love filled the hallways, and the sound of the waves crashing on the beach was a constant melody in the background, a reminder of the beauty and serenity they had achieved together. Scarlett poured her heart and soul into the business, treating each guest as a dear friend. Benjamin, always by her side, shared her enthusiasm and dedication. He was the smiling face that greeted guests at the reception, the pair of hands that helped in the kitchen, and the strong shoulder that supported Scarlett in moments of exhaustion. Together, they were an unbeatable team, the soul of the inn. But shadows began to appear, initially imperceptible. Scarlett noticed small changes in Benjamin. The brightness in his eyes seemed dimmer, and his smile, once so easy and genuine, became sporadic and forced. She attributed it to fatigue, to the stress of constant work. She could not imagine that, behind it all, a storm was brewing. On a calm night, while the guests slept and the inn was enveloped in serene silence, Scarlett found Benjamin on the porch, staring at the sea. She approached, expecting a moment of tenderness, but was met with a distant and disturbing look. "Is everything okay?" she asked, feeling a knot form in her throat. Benjamin looked away, murmuring a vague response that only increased Scarlett's unease. She tried to touch his hand, but he pulled away as if her touch were fire. "I'm just thinking about some things, nothing major," he said, but his tone revealed otherwise. From that night on, things only got worse. Benjamin started spending more time away, claiming to be handling business matters. Scarlett, always understanding, accepted his excuses, but the feeling that something was wrong grew in her chest. She felt alone in the daily struggle, and the inn, once a haven of love, now seemed like a minefield of uncertainties and doubts. Nights became longer and lonelier. Scarlett waited in the living room, staring at the door, waiting for Benjamin to come back, hoping he would return to being the man she knew and loved. Each minute felt like an eternity, and when he finally arrived, the smell of alcohol and cigarettes preceded him, bringing a new layer of worry and fear. The promise of a bright future that Scarlett had envisioned was quickly fading. She felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, trying to keep the inn and her marriage afloat while Benjamin, the man who swore to be by her side, seemed to drift further away each day. Scarlett could barely sleep. Each night felt like an endless vigil as she waited for Benjamin to come home, anxious and fearful of what she might discover. The smell of alcohol that clung to his clothes, the flimsy excuses, the forced smiles, all of it began to form a picture she was reluctant to accept. The truth was lurking, cruel and relentless, waiting to be unveiled. On a cloudy morning, while Benjamin was still sleeping soundly, Scarlett decided to organize the office papers. The inn's bills were piling up, and something inside her knew it was time to confront reality. Opening Benjamin's desk drawer, she found a thick envelope hidden under piles of documents. Her hands trembled as she opened it, revealing a series of gambling receipts and betting debts. The ground seemed to give way under her feet. The air left her lungs in a muffled gasp, and she had to sit down to avoid collapsing. The shock gave way to anger, and then to despair. Each receipt was a stab in her heart, a confirmation that the man she loved was losing himself to a devastating addiction. With the receipts in hand, she climbed the stairs to the bedroom. Benjamin was awake now, sitting on the edge of the bed with a vacant look. "What is this, Benjamin?" Scarlett's voice trembled, laden with pain and disbelief. She threw the papers on the bed, watching as he desperately tried to find an excuse, a lie to hide the truth. "It's not what you think," he began, but his words were empty and unconvincing. Scarlett felt a rising fury, an indignation that threatened to explode. "How could you do this? We built all this together. You're destroying everything." Benjamin stood up, trying to approach her, but Scarlett backed away as if his touch was poison. "I was trying to fix things," he said, his voice low and desperate. "I thought I could win enough to get us out of this situation." "Fix things?" She laughed bitterly, tears streaming down her face. "You're sinking us even more. You lied to me, diverted money from the inn. How could you be so irresponsible?" He tried to hug her, but Scarlett pushed him away forcefully. "No, don't you dare touch me. I trusted you, and you destroyed that. You destroyed everything we had." Benjamin began to shout, trying to justify himself, but his words were just a blur of sounds amidst Scarlett's pain. She felt betrayed, broken, as if the world had collapsed on her. The trust she had in Benjamin was in ruins, and the pain was unbearable. She ran out of the room, leaving Benjamin alone with his excuses and lies. Tears streamed down her face as she descended the stairs and headed to the beach. The cold wind cut her skin, but she barely felt it. The pain in her heart was overwhelming, each beat a reminder of what she had lost. On the solitude of the beach, Scarlett fell to her knees, sobbing. The vastness of the ocean in front of her mirrored the vastness of her pain. Each wave that broke on the sand seemed to take away a piece of her soul, leaving her empty and hopeless. Scarlett could barely get up from the beach that morning. Her legs trembled, her heart still heavy with the devastating discovery about Benjamin. But she knew she couldn't run away forever. She needed to face him. She needed to understand how the man she loved had turned into someone so distant and cruel. When she returned to the inn, she found Benjamin in the living room, pacing back and forth. He looked at her with desperate eyes, but Scarlett felt nothing but a crushing emptiness. "We need to talk," she said, her voice firm despite the turmoil inside her. They sat on the sofa, and Scarlett looked directly at Benjamin, waiting for him to speak. He began hesitantly, searching for words that could justify the unjustifiable. I was lost, Scarlett. I didn't know what to do. The business was struggling, and I thought I could." "You thought you could fix everything by gambling?" Scarlett interrupted, her anger resurfacing. "You lied to me, Benjamin. You put us in danger. How could you do this?" Benjamin lowered his head, unable to meet her gaze. "I was desperate," he murmured, "but I never meant to hurt you." "Hurt?" Scarlett felt a bitter laugh rise in her throat. "You destroyed me. You destroyed everything we built together. And now you expect me to just forgive you?" He tried to take her hand, but Scarlett pulled it away brusquely. "Scarlett, I can change. I promise I'll stop. I'll seek help. Please, don't give up on me." Tears began to form in Scarlett's eyes again. She wanted to believe. She desperately wanted to hold on to the hope that Benjamin could change. But the lies, the smell of alcohol, the gambling receipts, all of it was irrefutable proof that he had already crossed a line that couldn't easily be undone. "I don't know if I can, Benjamin," she said, her voice trembling. "You betrayed me in a way I can't even begin to understand. How can I trust you again?" Benjamin stood up suddenly, frustration etched on his face. "So you're going to abandon me? After everything we've been through together? You're going to leave me alone when I need you the most?" The manipulation in his words was clear, but Scarlett felt torn. Part of her wanted to believe, wanted to give him a chance, but another part knew she needed to protect herself and the future they had built. "It's not about abandoning you, Benjamin. It's about you betraying us, about you putting us in danger. I can't just ignore that." He stepped closer, his face just inches from hers. "I'll change, Scarlett. I swear. I just need a chance. Please, don't do this to us." The closeness, the warmth of his body, the whispered words, it was all so familiar, so painfully familiar. Scarlett closed her eyes, trying to block out the storm of emotions inside her. But when she opened her eyes again, she saw the truth. The man in front of her was not the Benjamin she loved. He was a shadow, a person destroyed by addiction and lies. "I need time, Benjamin," she said finally. "I need to think about what's best for me, and for the inn." He looked at her with desperate eyes, but Scarlett stood up, walking to the door. "Please, Benjamin, seek help. Do it for yourself, if not for us." She left the room before he could respond, her heart heavy in her chest. Every step felt like it weighed a ton, every breath a struggle. When she reached her room, she collapsed on the bed, letting the tears flow freely. The dawn brought a new kind of stillness to the inn. The sound of the waves crashing on the beach seemed distant, muffled by the pain and uncertainty that filled Scarlett's heart. After the devastating argument with Benjamin, she knew she couldn't go on like this. She needed to make a decision, not just for herself, but for the inn, for the dreams they had built and which were now in ruins. She spent the day walking through the hallways, observing every detail of the inn she loved so much. Every picture on the wall, every piece of furniture carefully chosen, every flower in the garden. All were reflections of a happy past that now seemed so distant. But Scarlett knew she needed to fight, not just to preserve what they had built, but to save herself. She found support in loyal friends, people who had always been by her side and who now became her rock. Emily, her longtime friend and manager, was the first to notice what was happening. "Scarlett, you're not alone. We'll get through this together. Benjamin needs help, but you also need to take care of yourself." Emily's words were a balm to her wounded soul. For the first time in a long time, Scarlett felt there was a way out, a light at the end of the tunnel. She decided she couldn't wait for Benjamin to change any longer. She needed to move on. She needed to renovate the inn and transform it into a new symbol of hope. Scarlett started with small changes, trying to recover the essence of the inn that was once her refuge. Every task, every project, was a way to rediscover herself and to raise the inn from the ashes of betrayal. She worked tirelessly, often to the point of exhaustion, but felt that every effort brought her closer to her goal. The turning point came when Scarlett decided to completely renovate the main hall. She wanted to transform the space into a place of beauty and peace, a reflection of what she desired for her own life. She hired a renovation team, and together they began to remove the marks of the past, replacing them with something new and vibrant. During the process, there were moments of pure exhaustion and tears. There were nights when Scarlett lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of the world on her shoulders. But every morning, she got up, determined to continue. The strength she found within herself was something she never imagined she possessed, but which now guided her like a bright star. Benjamin, for his part, tried several times to approach her. His attempts at reconciliation were full of empty promises, but Scarlett, now stronger and more determined, could see through his lies. "You need to help yourself first, Benjamin. You need to face your demons. I can no longer be your support while you refuse to change." Those words, spoken with pain and firmness, were like a blow to Benjamin, who seemed to finally understand the gravity of his actions. He left the inn, promising to seek help, but Scarlett knew his path was lonely and arduous. With Benjamin out of her life, at least temporarily, Scarlett focused entirely on the inn. The hard work began to pay off, and the inn began to transform into a luxury retreat, attracting a new clientele. The walls now shone with vibrant colors, the gardens bloomed with new life, and guests felt the difference in the air. Scarlett, for her part, began to feel a new hope bloom in her heart. Every smile from a satisfied guest, every compliment on the new design, was a reminder that she was on the right path. She was rebuilding not just the inn, but also herself. Scarlett woke up to the sound of seagulls, the salty smell of the sea invading her room. She got up, feeling a mix of tiredness and determination. The weeks of renovation were taking their toll, but each small victory was a reminder that she was on the right path. The inn was beginning to reflect not just her vision, but also her resilience. The main hall, now transformed, was a space of beauty and serenity. The walls had been painted in soft shades of blue and white, mirroring the tranquility of the ocean. New furniture, carefully chosen, gave an air of elegance and comfort. But what delighted Scarlett the most was the glass wall overlooking the beach, allowing sunlight to flood the hall, creating a welcoming and lively atmosphere. Emily, always by her side, worked tirelessly to ensure everything was perfect. Together, they supervised the final details before the official reopening. There was a vibrant energy in the air, a sense of renewal that was contagious to everyone around. Scarlett felt an inner rebirth, a hope that was beginning to flourish again. On the morning of the reopening, Scarlett allowed herself a moment of pause. She sat on the porch, watching the waves gently break on the sand. She took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill her lungs. She knew the journey had been painful, but also knew that every step had strengthened her spirit. She was ready to face the future, no matter what it brought. The first guests arrived shortly after noon. Scarlett greeted them with a genuine smile, each interaction a reminder of why she had fought so hard. The reactions of the visitors were of pure enchantment. They praised the new design, the welcoming atmosphere, and the attention to detail that Scarlett had meticulously planned. Among the new guests was a figure that caught Scarlett's attention, a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes, who seemed familiar somehow. When he approached to check in, Scarlett felt a chill down her spine. It was a face from the past, someone she never expected to meet again. "Scarlett? Is that you?" The voice was soft but carried the weight of years gone by. "Thomas?" She could hardly believe it. Thomas had been her first love, a flame that had gone out long ago, but whose memory still warmed her on the coldest nights. The reunion was unexpected and filled with emotions Scarlett thought she had left behind. "I'm back in town for a while. I heard about the inn and wanted to see it with my own eyes. I didn't know you were behind it." They exchanged glances, a mix of surprise and nostalgia. Scarlett felt her heart beat faster, the memories of a simpler time flooding her mind. But before she could dive into the memories, she was interrupted by a staff member needing her help. "Sorry, Thomas. I need to attend to this. Can we talk later?" Thomas smiled, a smile that was both comforting and disturbing. "Of course, I'll be around." As Scarlett walked away, she felt torn. The reunion with Thomas brought up dormant feelings, but also reminded her of the scars she still carried. She knew the road ahead continued to be full of challenges, but also felt that each new interaction, each new day, was an opportunity to heal and grow. That night, after the guests had gone to their rooms, Scarlett allowed herself to reflect on the day. Sitting on the porch, with the sound of the waves as a soundtrack, she thought about the twists and turns life takes. Meeting Thomas again seemed like a sign that even amidst pain and betrayal, there was room for new possibilities, for renewed hope. As she looked at the horizon, Scarlett promised herself she would keep fighting, not just for the inn, but for her own happiness. Life at the inn began to take on a pleasant rhythm. Thomas's presence brought new energy to Scarlett, a reminder that there was still beauty and goodness in the world. Their encounters were filled with nostalgia and laughter, and Scarlett felt revitalized by having someone who knew her from before everything fell apart. But tranquility was fragile. One morning, while Scarlett was tending to the flowers in the garden, she heard a familiar sound of footsteps behind her. She turned and felt her heart sink as she saw Benjamin standing there, looking gaunt and with tear-filled eyes. "Scarlett, we need to talk," he said, his voice breaking. She felt a mix of anger and compassion. Part of her wanted to scream, to expel him from her life forever, but another part still cared, still remembered the man she once loved deeply. "You can't just show up here, Benjamin. You've caused enough damage," she said, trying to keep her voice firm, though her eyes betrayed the pain she still felt. "I know I've done horrible things, Scarlett, but I'm sick. I have a terminal illness. Please, I just want a chance to make amends before it's too late." The words hit Scarlett like a punch in the gut. Terminal illness. It was a twist she didn't expect, and even after everything, the possibility of losing Benjamin forever brought a wave of sadness and confusion. "I don't know what to say," she murmured, feeling the tears well up. "After everything, you still have the power to hurt me." Benjamin approached, his hands trembling. "I just want a chance to apologize, to make peace. Let me stay here, at least for a while." Scarlett's mind swirled with conflicting emotions. She knew that allowing Benjamin to stay could bring chaos back into her life, but the idea of turning away someone who might be dying was unbearable. Finally, she nodded, though reluctantly. "You can stay, but if you do anything to hurt us again, I won't hesitate to send you away." Benjamin sighed with relief, and Scarlett felt a pang of guilt for still caring. But the weeks that followed were a mix of hope and tension. Benjamin seemed genuinely ill. and there were moments when Scarlett almost believed he was changing. However, peace was disturbed when Scarlett found documents hidden in Benjamin's room, revealing he had sold part of the inn without her knowledge. The shock and fury she felt were indescribable. She confronted Benjamin immediately, her voice shaking with rage. "How could you do this? After everything, you still lie to me. You sold part of the inn without telling me." Benjamin looked at her, guilt written all over his face. "I needed money to pay off old debts. I thought I could fix everything before you found out." "Fix everything?" Scarlett almost screamed, tears of frustration streaming down her face. "You're destroying everything again. I gave you a chance and you threw it away." Benjamin tried to approach, but Scarlett pushed him away forcefully, feeling betrayed and furious. "Get out of my sight, Benjamin. I can't do this anymore. You won't drag me down with you again." He left, leaving Scarlett alone with her pain and despair. She sat on the edge of the bed, feeling crushed by repeated betrayal. The tears came in an uncontrollable flow, and she lay down, hugging the pillow as if it were the only anchor in a sea of chaos. The reunion with Thomas, which had brought so much hope, now seemed like a distant dream. Scarlett was on the brink of despair. The pain and anger of discovering yet another betrayal from Benjamin left her devastated. She spent days isolating herself, trying to process the repetition of the same destructive patterns. Emily and Thomas were her only anchors, but even with them, Scarlett felt disconnected, lost in a sea of conflicting emotions. Thomas, worried, tried to approach Scarlett, offering a shoulder to cry on and words of comfort. One night, he found her on the porch, her gaze fixed on the horizon, as if seeking answers in the vast ocean. "Scarlett, you need to talk about this. You can't keep carrying this weight alone," said Thomas, sitting beside her. Scarlett turned to him, her eyes full of tears. "I don't know who to trust anymore, Thomas. Benjamin always had this ability to make me believe his lies, and I fell for it again. I feel like I'm being sucked into an endless abyss." Thomas took her hand, his touch firm and comforting. "You're stronger than you think. You've been through so much and you're still standing, and you're not alone." Those words brought some relief, but fear and uncertainty still lingered. Scarlett knew she needed to make a decision, but Benjamin's presence, even sick, complicated everything. He was getting weaker, and the guilt gnawed at her heart. She felt pity, but she knew she couldn't let herself be manipulated again. On a cloudy afternoon, while Scarlett was tending to the garden, she heard Benjamin's weak voice calling her from the porch. He looked even more frail, a specter of the man she had loved. "Scarlett, can we talk?" She hesitated but nodded, following him to the living room. Benjamin sat on the sofa, his breathing heavy and irregular. "I know I've hurt you deeply. I know it seems like I can't be fixed, but I need you to know that everything I did, even the horrible things, were motivated by desperation." Scarlett looked at him, her eyes full of tears. "Desperation? Benjamin? You sold part of the inn without telling me, lied about your illness. How do you expect me to trust you?" He lowered his head, tears streaming down his pale face. "I just wanted to fix things. I wanted to give you a better life, but I got lost along the way. I don't know how to come back." Benjamin's words were like knives to Scarlett's heart. She felt a mix of anger and compassion, an internal struggle between forgiving and protecting herself. "You need help, Benjamin. Professional help. I can't be that help for you. Not after everything." Benjamin looked at her with deep sadness. "I know. I'll seek help, but please, let me stay here until I can. I have nowhere else to go." Scarlett knew that allowing him to stay was risky, but she also knew she couldn't turn her back on him completely. "You can stay, but there will be rules. And if I feel like you're manipulating me again, you'll have to leave." He nodded, accepting the conditions. Scarlett felt a huge weight on her chest, but also a small flame of hope. Maybe, just maybe, Benjamin could change. However, his presence continued to bring tension to the inn. Thomas, always concerned, watched closely, ready to intervene if necessary. Scarlett tried to stay focused on the work, rebuilding the inn and trying to find a new normalcy. But the ghost of Benjamin's actions still lingered. On a quiet night, while everyone slept, Scarlett found a letter hidden in one of Benjamin's drawers. The words written were a confession of his actions, but also a final attempt at emotional manipulation. Scarlett, if you're reading this, it means I failed once again. I can't forgive myself for everything I put you through. I just wanted you to know that everything I did was out of love, out of fear of losing you. Even now, when everything seems lost, I still hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Tears fell freely as Scarlett read the letter. The next morning brought a sense of renewal and tension. Scarlett still felt shaken by Benjamin's letter, but she knew she needed to focus on the present and the inn she was rebuilding. Thomas, always by her side, noticed the unease in her eyes. "Shall we take a walk on the beach?" he suggested, trying to offer a distraction. Scarlett nodded, grateful for the attempt to ease her mind. As they walked along the sand, Scarlett felt the cool breeze on her face and heard the constant sound of the waves, bringing a momentary peace. Thomas, walking beside her, finally broke the silence. "I know it's hard, Scarlett, but you're strong. Stronger than anyone I know." She smiled, a sad but sincere smile. "Sometimes I don't feel that way. I feel like I'm just keeping my head above water." Thomas stopped and turned to her, taking her hands in his. "You've carried so much weight, Scarlett, and yet you're here, fighting. That's strength. And I'm here to help you, no matter what happens." Thomas's words were a comfort, but they also brought up feelings Scarlett didn't know how to handle. He was her old love, a bond that had been set aside for so long. And now, he was there, offering not only support but also a possibility of something more. Scarlett took a deep breath, trying to organize her thoughts. "Thomas, I don't know if I'm ready for this. My life is a mess, and I don't want to drag you into it." He squeezed her hands more firmly. "Scarlett, I'm not asking you to solve all your problems. I'm here because I care about you. And if you need time, I understand. I just want you to know I'm by your side." Scarlett's eyes filled with tears. She felt torn between the fear of opening her heart again and the hope of a new beginning. "Thank you, Thomas. Your presence means more to me than you know." They continued walking, side by side, in a comfortable silence. Each step on the sand felt like a step towards a new phase of her life, one where she could finally find peace and happiness. Back at the inn, Scarlett felt a renewed energy. She began to work with more vigor, planning new activities and events for the guests. Thomas, now involved in the management, was a reliable partner full of creative ideas. Together, they began to transform the inn into a true luxury retreat. But Benjamin's presence still cast a shadow. He was getting weaker, and Scarlett knew his time was running out. Even with the anger and pain, she couldn't ignore the fact that he was sick. Her compassion and the old flame of past love made her want to help him, despite everything. One afternoon, while preparing the hall for an event, Scarlett heard a faint call from Benjamin's room. When she entered, she found him lying in bed, pale and breathing with difficulty. "Scarlett, I'm so sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope one day you can find peace," he whispered, his voice almost inaudible. She held his hand, feeling helpless and full of sadness. "Benjamin, I don't know what to say. You hurt me so much, but I still care. I hope you find the peace you're looking for." He closed his eyes, a sigh escaping his lips. Scarlett stayed there, holding his hand, tears silently rolling down her face. Thomas's constant presence entered the room, and he placed a comforting hand on Scarlett's shoulder. "Come on, Scarlett. You need to rest," he said softly. She nodded, feeling exhausted. "Yes, I think I need to." As they left the room, Scarlett looked at Thomas, feeling a deep gratitude. He was her safe harbor in the storm, and for the first time in a long time, she felt she could find a path to happiness again. The nights at the inn became a mixture of intense work and moments of introspection for Scarlett. She spent hours looking at the sea, seeking answers to the questions that haunted her. The memories of Benjamin, the moments of tenderness and betrayal, mingled with the constant and comforting presence of Thomas. One night, after all the guests had gone to sleep, Scarlett felt an urgent need to talk to Thomas. She found him in the main hall, arranging some papers. He looked at her, a soft smile on his face. "Scarlett, are you okay?" She nodded, but he saw the turmoil in her eyes. Thomas, we need to talk. About us. He put the papers aside and approached, sitting beside her. Of course. I'm here for whatever you need. Scarlett took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. I feel so confused. There are so many things happening. Benjamin, the inn. You? I feel like I'm in the middle of a hurricane, and I don't know where to go. Thomas took her hand, holding it firmly. Scarlett, you don't need to make all the decisions now. We're rebuilding the inn and, at the same time, rediscovering who we are. I'm not here to pressure you. I'm here to support you, whatever path you choose. Tears began to roll down Scarlett's face. You've always been so good to me, Thomas. Even after all this time, I feel like I don't deserve someone like you. He hugged her, holding her tightly. You deserve all the happiness in the world, Scarlett, and I'll be by your side, whatever decision you make. They stayed like that for a long time, a hug that seemed to heal open wounds and strengthen the bonds that were forming. Scarlett felt safe in Thomas's arms, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. When they finally pulled apart, she looked at him with a mix of gratitude and hope. Thank you, Thomas. I don't know what I would do without you here. He smiled, a smile that lit up the hall. You don't need to thank me. Being with you is a privilege. In the days that followed, Scarlett began to notice a change within herself. The pains of the past were still there, but now there was a new layer of strength and determination. Thomas and she worked together as a true team, transforming the inn into a place of beauty and peace. However, Benjamin's shadow still lingered. He was getting weaker, and Scarlett knew his time was running out. The terminal illness was no longer a manipulation this time, and she felt a mix of sadness and relief at seeing the reality. She knew she needed closure, a final conversation to put an end to the tumultuous relationship. One afternoon, as the sun set on the horizon, Scarlett entered Benjamin's room. He was lying in bed, his eyes closed, but he opened them as he sensed her presence. Scarlett, he murmured, his voice weak and broken. She sat beside the bed, taking his hand. Benjamin, I need to say something. Despite everything, I want you to know that I truly loved you. Every moment we spent together, even the hardest ones, was real to me. He looked at her, his eyes filled with tears. I know, Scarlett, and I'm so sorry for everything I did. If I could go back, I'd do everything differently. She squeezed his hand, tears streaming down her face. I forgive you, Benjamin. Not for you, but for me. I need to let this pain go to move forward. A sigh of relief escaped Benjamin's lips. Thank you, Scarlett. That means more than you can imagine. She stayed there, holding his hand, until he fell asleep again. When she finally left the room, she felt a lightness she hadn't felt in a long time. Forgiveness had brought a sense of peace, a crucial step towards her own healing. Thomas was waiting for her outside, his eyes filled with concern. How are you? Scarlett smiled, a tired but sincere smile. I'm fine. I think I finally found a way to move forward. They walked together to the porch, watching the sun disappear on the horizon. The days passed with an almost surreal tranquility at the inn. Scarlett felt a renewed peace, a sense of purpose as she worked side by side with Thomas. However, a lingering shadow hovered, reminding her that the journey was not yet over. Benjamin, visibly weaker, spent most of his time in his room, receiving medical care and occasional visits from Scarlett. Although the tension between them had lessened, the weight of the past was still present. Scarlett knew that a final conversation was approaching, one that would bring the truth to light once and for all. One night, as the inn quieted and the sky lit up with stars, Scarlett went to Benjamin's room. He was awake, staring at the ceiling with a distant look. When he saw her, he tried to smile, but the effort was evident. Scarlett, he began, his voice weak and full of emotions. I need to talk to you. This might be the last time. She sat beside him, taking his hand gently. I'm here, Benjamin. What do you need to say? He took a deep breath, struggling to find the words. I know I hurt you in ways that can't be fixed, but I need you to know that, despite everything, I always loved you, and I'm deeply sorry for what I did. Benjamin's words were sincere, but also filled with palpable desperation. Scarlett felt a mix of sadness and relief, as if she could finally close a painful chapter of her life. I know, Benjamin, and I forgive you. Not because what you did was acceptable, but because I need to move forward. He squeezed her hand with the little strength he had, his eyes filled with tears. I wanted to be a better man for you. I wanted to fix everything, but I got lost. I hope one day you find the happiness you deserve. Scarlett felt the tears stream down her face. I also hope you find peace, Benjamin. No matter how hard it was, you'll always be part of my story. They remained silent for a moment, letting the unspoken words fill the space between them. Thomas's constant presence, waiting outside, was a reminder that Scarlett was not alone on this journey. When she finally stood to leave, Benjamin held her hand for one more moment. Thank you, Scarlett, for everything. She nodded, one last look of compassion before leaving the room. When she found Thomas in the hallway, he pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. You did the right thing, Scarlett. You're incredibly strong. Scarlett allowed herself to cry in Thomas's arms, releasing the accumulated pain. She felt exhausted but also relieved, as if she had finally freed herself from the chains of the past. Thank you, Thomas. I don't know what I would do without you. The days that followed were a mix of mourning and renewal. Benjamin passed away shortly after, leaving Scarlett with a complex feeling of loss and liberation. Thomas's constant presence was her foundation, helping her navigate the confusing feelings and rebuild her life. The inn, now a symbol of resilience and hope, flourished under Scarlett and Thomas's attentive care. Each renovated corner, each carefully planned detail, reflected Scarlett's journey of healing and transformation. One sunny afternoon, as they walked along the beach, Scarlett felt a serenity she hadn't experienced in years. I feel like I can finally breathe again, she said, looking at Thomas with a genuine smile. He smiled back, his eyes full of affection. You deserve all the happiness, Scarlett, and I'm here to make sure you have it. She held his hand, feeling the warmth and security in his touch. Together, we can overcome anything. The walk continued, each step on the sand a reminder that the future, though uncertain, was full of possibilities. Scarlett felt that, with Thomas by her side, she could face any challenge, rebuild any ruin. The pain of the past had left scars, but it had also strengthened her spirit. Scarlett woke up with a sense of lightness she hadn't felt in years. Benjamin's absence at the inn, even with all the sadness of his death, brought an unexpected calm. She looked out the window, seeing the sun rise over the sea, and felt a renewed hope for the future. While having her breakfast on the porch, Thomas appeared with a warm smile. Good morning, Scarlett. Ready for another day of adventures at the inn? She smiled, feeling genuine happiness. Good morning, Thomas. Yes, I'm ready. Let's make this place even more special. The weeks that followed were filled with intense work and lots of laughter. Scarlett and Thomas transformed every corner of the inn, creating a welcoming and luxurious environment that attracted guests from all over. The inn had become a refuge not just for visitors, but also for Scarlett, a symbol of her strength and resilience. However, the calm was interrupted by an unexpected visit. One day, while Scarlett was organizing the financial records, an unknown man appeared at the reception. He introduced himself as John, an old friend of Benjamin. Scarlett felt a chill run down her spine. How can I help you, John? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. I came to collect some of Benjamin's belongings, he said, looking around the inn. He left me some important things. Scarlett nodded, though she was suspicious of John's intentions. Of course, let's go to his room. I'll show you where his things are. As they walked down the hallway, John began to talk. Benjamin told me a lot about you, Scarlett. He deeply regretted what he did, you know? She stopped, feeling a knot in her throat. Yes, he told me. But regret doesn't change what happened. John nodded, a sad look in his eyes. You're right, but he really tried to make amends. You found all the documents, right? Scarlett frowned. What documents? John stopped, seeming surprised. The papers about the sale of the inn. He told me you knew about everything and had agreed to sign. Scarlett's heart began to beat faster. I never signed anything. Benjamin sold part of the inn without my knowledge. John looked at her with an understanding expression. "Scarlett, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought he was being honest with me. Maybe we should check together." They went to Benjamin's room and began to search through the belongings. Scarlett found a folder hidden in the back of the closet, full of documents. When she opened it, her heart almost stopped. There were the proofs that Benjamin had forged her signature to sell a large part of the inn. The final betrayal, the blow she never expected. Tears began to stream down Scarlett's face. John, seeing her pain, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry, Scarlett. I really thought he was trying to do the right thing." She shook her head, trying to process the wave of emotions. "He never changed, John. Even when it seemed he was trying to make amends, he continued to lie and manipulate." Thomas entered the room at that moment, seeing the devastated expression on Scarlett's face. "What's going on?" Scarlett showed him the documents, her voice trembling with rage and sadness. "Benjamin forged my signature. He sold the inn without my knowledge." Thomas looked at the papers, the anger evident in his eyes. "This is unforgivable. We'll fight against this, Scarlett. We won't let him destroy everything you've worked for." Scarlett nodded, feeling a new wave of determination. "Yes, we'll fight. I won't let him continue to hurt us." With Thomas's help and a trusted lawyer, Scarlett began to take the necessary steps to annul the sale and regain full control of the inn. It was a tough battle, full of legal and emotional challenges, but each step taken was a step towards justice and truth. During this process, Scarlett discovered the depth of her own strength and the importance of the support of those who truly cared about her. Thomas was her pillar, always present, always encouraging her to keep going. And even in the midst of the fight, Scarlett felt a growing inner peace, knowing she was finally freeing herself from the shadows of the past. As she walked along the beach with Thomas, Scarlett felt a new confidence blooming inside her. She looked at the horizon, seeing the endless possibilities of the future. "Thank you for being by my side, Thomas. I don't know what I would do without you." He smiled, squeezing her hand firmly. "I'll always be here, Scarlett. Together, we can face anything." The legal battle to reclaim the inn was exhausting, draining Scarlett's energy in ways she hadn't imagined possible. However, every hearing, every document reviewed was a step closer to reclaiming her refuge and her future. Scarlett fought with fierce determination, a flame of justice burning in her heart. Thomas was always by her side, offering unwavering support and encouragement. His words and presence were anchors amidst the chaos. Even on the hardest nights, when doubts and fears threatened to overwhelm her, he was there, holding her hand, reminding her of her strength and what they were fighting to preserve. Finally, after weeks of tension, the final verdict arrived. The judge declared the most recent will of Benjamin invalid due to forgery, returning the complete ownership of the inn to Scarlett. Tears of relief and joy streamed down her face as she held Thomas's hand in the courtroom, feeling the weight of victory and justice. Leaving the courtroom, Scarlett stopped on the entrance steps, looking at the sky. She took a deep breath, letting the sense of relief fill every fiber of her being. "We did it, Thomas. We did it." He smiled, pulling her into a tight embrace. "You did it, Scarlett. You were incredible. I knew you could do it." Back at the inn, the days followed with renewed energy. Scarlett felt a lightness in her step, a joy in every smile shared with guests and staff. The inn flourished, becoming a symbol of resilience and renewal, attracting more visitors than ever. One afternoon, while Scarlett and Thomas were in the garden, planting new flowers, she stopped to admire the work done. "Thomas, I feel like we're finally where we're supposed to be. Everything is starting to fall into place." He looked at her, his eyes full of pride and affection. "And that's thanks to you, Scarlett. Your strength and determination transformed this place and our lives." Scarlett smiled, feeling an inner peace she hadn't experienced in years. But there was still one challenge to face: the emotional pain and the memories Benjamin had left behind. She decided she needed one last step to close this painful chapter of her life. On a quiet night, with the soft breeze of the sea entering through the window, Scarlett went to Benjamin's now empty room. She sat on the bed and looked around, letting the memories flow. She took the letter he had written and began to read it again. Every word was a reminder of the love and pain they had shared. Feeling stronger, Scarlett decided to burn the letter. She went to the fireplace and, with trembling hands, threw the paper into the flames. Benjamin's words disappeared as the fire consumed them, and with them, the last shadow of his influence. Thomas entered the room, observing the silent ritual. He approached her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Are you okay?" She nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Yes, I am. It's time to move on, truly." The days that followed were filled with work and moments of genuine happiness. Scarlett felt a new freedom, a clarity of purpose that guided her in every decision. The inn was not just a business, it was a home, a symbol of her strength and ability to overcome any obstacle. One night, while watching the sunset together on the porch, Thomas held Scarlett's hand and looked deeply into her eyes. "Scarlett, you transformed this place into something amazing, and you transformed my life too. I couldn't be prouder of you." She smiled, feeling the warmth and love in his words. "I couldn't have done it without you, Thomas. You were my pillar, my partner in every step of the way." He leaned in and kissed her forehead gently. "And I always will be, Scarlett. Always." The months that followed brought a new era of prosperity to the inn. Scarlett and Thomas, working together, transformed every corner of the place, making it shine like never before. The inn had become a luxury retreat, attracting visitors from all over, all in search of the peace and beauty that Scarlett and Thomas had created. Despite the growing happiness, Scarlett still carried the scars of the past. Each day was a battle to find a balance between old pain and new joy. Thomas, always by her side, noticed her internal struggles and offered the unconditional support she so needed. One morning, while walking along the beach, Thomas looked at Scarlett with a look of tenderness and concern. "Scarlett, you've been so strong, but I see there's still pain in your eyes. You don't have to carry this alone." She stopped, looking at the sea. The sound of the waves always calmed her, but also brought deep memories. "Thomas, sometimes I feel the pain will never completely go away. It's like a shadow that's always there, even on the sunniest days." He took her hands, squeezing them gently. "It's natural to feel that way, but remember, you're not alone anymore. We're in this together, and every step we take is a step towards healing." Scarlett smiled, feeling the warmth of Thomas's love penetrate her emotional barriers. "I know, and I'm so grateful you're here with me. You've given me a new life." They continued walking, and Scarlett felt a new wave of determination. She was ready to face her demons head-on and finally leave the past behind. She decided the best way to do this was to create something beautiful and meaningful, something that reflected her journey of overcoming. She began planning a special event at the inn, a celebration of life and renewal. She wanted it to be a magical night, full of joy and hope, something that would show everyone how much she had grown and changed. Thomas helped with every detail, from choosing the decorations to selecting the menu. The inn was transformed into a paradise of twinkling lights, fragrant flowers, and soft music. Guests and old friends were invited, all eager to celebrate the new era of the inn and Scarlett's incredible journey. On the night of the event, Scarlett wore an elegant blue dress, feeling more confident and beautiful than ever. Thomas found her on the porch, his gaze full of admiration. "You look stunning, Scarlett. This night is yours." She smiled, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. "It's ours, Thomas. I couldn't have gotten here without you." As guests began to arrive, the inn filled with laughter and animated conversations. Scarlett walked among them, receiving compliments and warm hugs, feeling surrounded by love and support. Each smile, each word of encouragement was a reminder of her strength and resilience. At the height of the evening, Thomas took to the improvised stage in the garden and called everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to make a special toast. Tonight, we celebrate not only the incredible transformation of this inn, but also the journey of an extraordinary woman. Scarlett, your strength, courage, and love have transformed this place and all of us. To you, and to all the bright days to come." The applause was deafening. Scarlett felt the tears stream down her face, but this time they were tears of joy and gratitude. She raised her glass, toasting with everyone. Thank you all. Tonight is a celebration of life, love, and hope, and I'm eternally grateful to have each of you by my side. As the party continued, Scarlett and Thomas danced together under the stars, the soft music creating a magical atmosphere. She felt lighter, freer than ever. The pain of the past was there, but now it was a part of who she was, a testament to her ability to overcome and flourish. As the night went on, Scarlett looked at Thomas, her eyes full of love. You helped me find the light again, Thomas. Thank you for not giving up on me. He smiled, leaning in to kiss her gently. I'll always be by your side, Scarlett. This is just the beginning of our incredible journey together. The success of the inn and the celebration of the previous night left Scarlett with a sense of accomplishment she had never experienced before. However, life has a way of testing even the strongest, and Scarlett soon found herself facing one final challenge that would test her strength and courage once more. One morning, while having coffee on the porch, Scarlett received an unexpected call. It was Benjamin's lawyer, informing her that a new will had been discovered recently, which could affect the ownership of the inn. Scarlett's heart nearly stopped. Just when she thought she had overcome all adversities, a new obstacle emerged. Thomas entered the porch, noticing the worried expression on Scarlett's face. What happened, love? He asked, sitting beside her. She sighed deeply, trying to calm the storm inside her. Benjamin's lawyer found a new will. It seems there might be complications with the ownership of the inn. Thomas took her hand, his touch firm and comforting. We'll deal with this together, Scarlett. No matter what happens, we'll overcome this too. The days that followed were filled with tense meetings and discussions with lawyers. Scarlett felt the pressure mounting, but every time she looked at Thomas and remembered all they had overcome, she found the strength needed to keep fighting. Finally, the day of the hearing that would decide the fate of the inn arrived. Scarlett entered the courtroom holding Thomas's hand, feeling a mix of nervousness and determination. She knew this could be the final battle, the last test of her resilience. During the hearing, Benjamin's lawyer presented the new will, which seemed to indicate that Benjamin had left half of the inn to a distant cousin. Scarlett felt anger and frustration bubbling inside her, but she maintained her composure, determined to defend what was rightfully hers. Her lawyer presented evidence that the previous will, in which Benjamin had transferred the inn entirely to Scarlett, was legitimate and properly signed before his illness. The hours dragged on as arguments went back and forth, and Scarlett felt each minute as an eternity. Finally, the judge spoke. After considering all the evidence, I declare the most recent will of Benjamin invalid. Full ownership of the inn remains with Scarlett. Case closed. Relief flooded Scarlett, tears streaming down her face as Thomas hugged her tightly. They left the courtroom hand in hand, the final victory sealed and the future secure. Back at the inn, Scarlett was greeted with hugs and smiles from friends and staff. The battle had been hard, but the relief and joy she felt now outweighed any pain. She felt she could finally breathe freely, that all the shadows of the past had been dispelled. That night, as the sun set over the sea, Scarlett and Thomas sat on the porch, watching the brilliant colors in the sky. Thomas held her hand, a calm smile on his face. You were amazing today, Scarlett. I'm so proud of you. She looked at him, feeling the love and gratitude overflowing. I couldn't have done it without you, Thomas. You were my rock through it all. He leaned in and kissed her forehead gently. We're in this together, always. No matter what happens, we'll face it all side by side. Scarlett smiled, feeling a deep peace. She looked at the horizon, imagining all the possibilities the future held. For the first time, she felt completely free, ready to embrace each new day with love and hope. As night fell, Scarlett and Thomas walked along the beach, their footprints side by side in the sand. Each step they took was a symbol of their love, of their combined strength. They felt invincible, ready to face any challenge life threw at them. The sound of the waves, the glow of the stars, the warmth of their intertwined hands, everything conspired to create a moment of pure happiness. Scarlett knew that, no matter what the future held, she had everything she needed: love, strength, and the certainty that she would never be alone again. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, bathing the inn in a golden light that seemed to promise new beginnings. Scarlett woke up with a profound sense of peace, a peace she hadn't felt in years. The court had finally closed the darkest chapter of her life, and she was ready to embrace the future with all her might. Thomas was still asleep beside her, his face relaxed in a contented expression. Scarlett watched him for a moment, feeling a wave of love and gratitude wash over her. She kissed him lightly on the cheek before quietly slipping out of bed and walking to the porch. The fresh morning air enveloped her, and she took a deep breath, absorbing the serenity of the moment. The inn was quiet, the guests still sleeping and the staff beginning to prepare for another day. Scarlett went down to the garden, where Emily was already watering the flowers. When she saw Scarlett, Emily smiled warmly. "Good morning, Scarlett. How are you feeling?" Scarlett smiled back, unable to hide the lightness she felt. "I'm well, Emily. Very well. Actually, it feels like everything is finally falling into place." Emily nodded, continuing to water the flowers. "You deserve this peace, Scarlett. You've worked hard for it." They spent a few minutes in silence, the sound of water and birds filling the air. Scarlett reflected on the journey that had brought her here. All the pains, the struggles, but also the moments of joy and victory. She felt strengthened, knowing that no matter what the future held, she was prepared to face anything. Thomas appeared on the porch, already dressed and ready for the day. When he saw Scarlett and Emily in the garden, he came down to join them. "Good morning, you two. Ready for another day?" Scarlett and Emily laughed, and Scarlett responded, "We're always ready, Thomas. Let's make this a memorable day." The day passed quickly, filled with work at the inn and the moments of tranquility Scarlett so cherished. As the afternoon progressed, the guests gathered for a special event Scarlett and Thomas had organized, a seaside dinner with live music and a bonfire. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Scarlett watched the guests enjoy themselves. Thomas approached, bringing 2 glasses of wine. "To us," he said, handing Scarlett a glass. She raised her glass, her eyes shining with happiness. "To us." They drank together, and Thomas pulled her into a slow dance to the sound of the soft music. As they danced, Scarlett felt all the pieces of her life's puzzle fitting perfectly. She was surrounded by love, hope, and a peace she could finally call her own. Later that night, when the bonfire was crackling and the stars were shining in the sky, Scarlett and Thomas sat on the sand, watching the sea. The sound of the waves was a constant reminder of the strength and beauty of nature, a strength Scarlett felt reflected in herself. Thomas held her hand, intertwining their fingers. "Scarlett, I have something to ask you." She looked at him, curious. "What is it, Thomas?" He pulled out a small box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a simple but beautiful ring. "Will you marry me, Scarlett? I want to spend the rest of my life with you, facing everything that comes, together." Scarlett felt the tears well up, but this time they were tears of pure joy. "Yes, Thomas, I want to marry you. I want all of that and more." He slipped the ring on her finger, and they kissed under the starry sky, with the sea breeze around them. Scarlett knew the journey wasn't over, but she now had the certainty that with Thomas by her side, she could face anything. The future was full of possibilities, and Scarlett was ready to embrace each one. The pain of the past had left scars, but it had also transformed her into the strong and resilient woman she was now.